Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by Milo. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I've noticed something. There are a bunch of listeners who want to start online businesses but haven't yet because they don't know where to start and they don't know how to set up a blog. And for an online business, I recommend setting up a blog and using that as the foundation for your online business. If you are struggling to set up your blog, let us help you. David and I, started a program called Milo Tree Blog Start. It's milotree.com/blog start. And we will set it up for you. Not only that, we'll set it up right. Here is what Deb said about her experience working with us. She said, after 2 failed attempts at launching my blog on my own, I found Milo Tree's Blog Start service. I was having difficulty navigating WordPress and challenged by the technical aspects of setting up the site. Jillian and David were able to get my site up in a couple of days. They broke down the information they needed into bite-sized chunks that I could easily digest. They helped me with everything from setup to hosting to design. They even fixed the mistakes they came across from my prior attempts and answered all my questions along the way. I only wish I found them sooner. If this speaks to you, please head to milotree.com/blog start. We would be honored to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. Again, milotree.com/blog start. For today's episode, I am interviewing Cassidy Tuttle, and she is the creator of a blog called Succulents and Sunshine. I talk a lot about being a niche player in the world of the internet, and she is a perfect example of this. And what I really think is most interesting about this interview is that she is a blogger, but she is so much more. And she's been able to organically create products and courses and sell to her audience and be a resource. And I love too that she tests things and is always tweaking and trying. So if you want to be inspired, definitely listen to this episode. So without further delay, here is my interview with Cassidy Tuttle. Cassidy, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So let's start with your entrepreneurial journey. So we were just talking before I pressed record about how you are a niche, what I would call a niche blogger. So will you tell us, share how you found your niche and how you started?
Yeah, so I actually have a bachelor's degree in photography. And in school, I found out that the thing I loved photographing was food primarily, and then also just product. So I liked anything that stood still. I didn't have to tell it what to do, that kind of thing. So I did a lot of product photography. And early on in school, blogging was starting to become popular. So I started a blog for my photography, and just would post projects or things I was working on. But then I bought a couple succulents in the middle of like a nasty gray winter in Utah, and had those growing on my windowsill. They were really photogenic, so I was taking pictures of them. I was doing research, trying to figure out how to water them. How do I keep these alive? What do I need to do? Because I learned pretty quick they aren't like most plants. So as I was researching, I really couldn't find anything that talked about growing succulents indoors. That has very much changed in the last 8 years. But I just started writing about what I was doing. So I'm like, okay, I can't really find exactly what I'm looking for, but I'll just post some pictures. And, at the time blogging was like, you post every day and you talk about everything that you're doing. And that's really what I started doing.
But wait, what year was this?
So I'm pretty sure I bought my first succulents in 2012.
Okay.
So about 8 years ago. And it was just something just to post, on my photography blog at the time. And then I started learning more about online business and how to make money online. And I've always been really interested in business. I actually started out school thinking I was going to major in business and then decided I really wanted to do photography instead. But so I started learning about how you can monetize and, look at what people are viewing on your website. And when I put analytics on the website, this was the photography blog, I realized that I was getting organic search traffic from Google to these blog posts I had written about how to propagate or make more succulents from the ones you already have. And so I saw that as an opportunity because, I'd listened to these podcast episodes or read eBooks about how, you need to find something that people are searching for that you can write about. I'm like, well, I'm already getting this. This seems something kind of cool. Succulents are fun. So let's pursue this and see what happens. So I usually tell people it was kind of a happy accident, but turned very intentional business. So actually on Valentine's Day of 2013, I bought the domain succulentsandsunshine.com and gradually moved over all these blog posts that I had already written. There were maybe 5 that were decent. A lot of it was just like, here's what they look like today. Here's what they look like today. But I took what was good and I was more intentional about them. I filled them out a little bit more, made it more tutorial-esque instead of just like, hey, I'm trying this and this seems to be kind of working. And that's really when it started taking off. So that first year of 2013, we ended up making $15,000 for the year.
Wow. And that was predominantly with ads?
It was. Yeah. So March of 2013 was when I received my first payout from Google Ads of $100. And a little bit of that was from, I had put ads on the other photography blog. But then most of it was from the new website, just having it switched over to the new domain.
Very cool. Okay. So then you said to yourself, I can start monetizing this. And I see on your blog that you also have products. So how did that come about?
Yeah. So in 2014, I think it was 2014, maybe it was 2013. Now I can't remember, but early on, like within the first year, propagation is what really, got traffic to my website. That was the thing that people were coming to me for. So I had learned all about eBooks. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write an eBook on propagation. And it's going to be super pretty because that's what I loved, was photography. Yep. So I wrote an ebook just on propagation, and I had a very, very tiny email list at the time, but it was more like, it might have only been an RSS feed at that point, but enough that I could get people, I could email people and say, hey, I have this ebook coming out. And at the time when I launched it, I thought it didn't do very well. And my perspective has totally changed since then. So when we launched it, and it was not a hard launch, it was just like, hey guys, I have this ebook that's out. There was no prep coming up to it, or lead in. I maybe sent out 2 emails about it, and we ended up making $1,000 from this $10 ebook.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So yeah. So it was pretty you think? Exciting. Well, honestly, I remember being disappointed.
Okay.
which is really sad. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized, like, you know what, this is a $10 product. I'm not going to have like a 5-figure launch. I don't quite have that audience. And then, but I realized I'm like, I just made $1,000, and I'm going to keep earning money from it. And since then, we've kind of shifted the way we're focusing on products now, but it consistently made about $500 a month from that point on.
That's amazing.
So it was a game changer.
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
You made it, and then it's up there, and it's just passive income for you.
Yep. So we just had links to it on, the different blog posts, and we're promoting it that way, and it kept selling. And so then I believe it was the end of 2014, I launched another ebook, and we just kind of kept launching them from there. So I think technically we have 5 ebooks total, and we now have 2 courses. We have these succulent ID cards, so kind of like a prettier, more informative version of that plant label you would get at a nursery when you buy a plant.
Okay.
So we have a digital version of those that we sell. There's like I think we have 150 plants maybe now, or cards. And then we also have a membership site that we just started at the end of 2019.
Okay, so let's step back. First of all, how long did it take you to write an ebook? Or how long, like let's say you've got 5.
Well, the actual writing of it probably took me 2 hours.
To write the entire ebook?
Yeah, it is a very helpful, informative ebook, but it's not very long.
How long?
It's probably, I think that one is 45 pages, but it's a picture book. So it's not like there's a ton of text on each page. It's about 4,500 words, maybe 9,000. It's just like a really long blog post.
Wow. And then how about your other ebooks?
Yeah. Most of them are pretty similar. So the writing part of it for me has always been pretty quick. I've done like research and different things, and it's hard for me to say like, oh, I spent like 5 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours researching for this particular ebook, because it all kind of flows together. But most of them are, I would say, 10 to 20,000 words or less.
So it's not like these are taking you 3 months.
No. And honestly, the thing that took the longest with all of them was getting the photos taken. And then I had a great graphic designer that I was using. And, it just took some time for her to get the ebook put together. She was actually pretty quick. It was still probably like a 2 or 3 week turnaround.
Wow.
But overall, I would say it maybe took a month to get the ebook done once I figured out what I was doing.
Now, do you know, like of your 5, are there certain ones that are big sellers and other ones that just kind of, haven't really panned out in that way? Like, are you making most of your money from ebooks on 2 ebooks?
So we have, with the ebooks right now, we have a bundle option. And unfortunately for the past 2 years, the way the bundle was set up, I didn't actually know what people were buying and then upgrading from. If that makes sense. So they could add the watering ebook to their cart, and then I say, hey, do you want to get the bundle instead? And they would say yes. And up until just like a few months ago, I didn't know that it was like the watering or the propagating or the indoors ebook that they were adding to their cart. However, I do know that so we have an ebook on watering, and that is probably the most popular one, quickly followed by the propagation ebook. So that original one. And I have only made like a handful of updates to it since it came out. So it was really like, write it and I was done.
Wow. Okay. And then so you're selling your ebook for, let's say, $10. Is that right?
Yep. Yes.
And then do you do a tripwire, which is where once they put it in their cart, you come out and say, hey, do you want to get the entire bundle for however much money? Is it kind of like a kind of impulse purchase to upgrade?
Yeah. Yep. So the term we've been using for it is an order bump. So if you add any of our products to your cart, just before you would click checkout, it says, hey, do you want to get this item? Usually it's at a discount before you go. And across the board, we've had pretty great success with that. Like, I think our average conversion is, it's about 35%.
That's amazing.
Yes. So it's really increasing the average order value and selling a lot more products that way.
You sell the first one for 10, but then how much is the bundle?
Let's see. The bundle is, I want to say it's 25.
Wow, and you get all 5.
Yeah. Yep.
And for you, what's so great about that is it's all free. It doesn't matter in terms of your costs.
Yeah. Yep. And it's interesting because with the ID cards, I've actually been playing around with different options. So we had the ebook bundle as an option for the order bump, and now we're switching to just trying one ebook at a discount, and that's actually been converting at over 50%. But the order value, like the bump price is so much lower that even though it's converting higher, we're not actually making as much.
Yep.
So there's just like a lot of little things like that.
But I love
testing,
how you're testing.
Yeah. So we've tried a bunch of different things, and it's always exciting when they work. It's more frustrating when they don't. But that idea of trying new things and testing, I think, is part of what keeps me going, because it's just fun to see what works. And we've had a few things in the last few months that haven't actually worked out the way we thought, like they didn't improve. And so that's frustrating. Like, man, why did we do that? It didn't work out, but we wouldn't have known otherwise. So we actually made a change last spring to the way we were asking people for their email address. So we were using the same like lead magnet or opt-in, but we changed the design of how the form would show up. And someone recommended this change to me. I had a coach, and he's like, let's try doing it this way. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like it seems like it's not going to be as visible. But interestingly, we went from having about a 2 to 3% conversion rate on a particular blog post, and it jumped up to almost 8%.
Wow. What was the change? You have to share. What was the change?
Yeah. So what we had before was like this big box that was in line in the blog post. So it definitely stood out, and it said, hey, do you want to get this free cheat sheet? I'm sure the wording was much better, but you want to get this cheat sheet that shows you signs your succulent has been overwatered or underwatered. And I think you still had to click a button to put your email address in. I can't remember for sure, but it was something that was very obviously an opt-in. And instead, what we did was I wrote a paragraph that said, hey, by the way, I have this cheat sheet that will show you early signs that your succulent's getting too much or too little water. Click here to grab it. It'll be super helpful. And it was just text. And then that link that said, click here to grab it, would then have the pop-up where they put in their name and their email address.
Interesting. So it didn't look like it was an opt-in. It looked like, hey, just grab this. And then people are like, all right, here's my email address.
Yeah. And what I was worried about, because I am a skimmer, like there are very few articles where I read in depth. So I'm like, but if people are skimming, they're not going to see this, but the people who actually read through the article knew that they wanted that, and they were the most engaged visitors anyway. And so instead of looking like an ad or an interruption, it just flows with the text. So we ended up changing that for the majority of our blog posts, and it basically doubled our email opt-in conversion rate for the site as a whole.
That's amazing. Now, one step back for your products, what software are you using to do the bumps and all of that to make that a good experience for your visitors?
Yeah, so I have tried a lot of things, and at the end of the day, I've realized I'm very much a control freak. I just want to be able to manage everything and do it my way. So I'm currently set up on WooCommerce,
okay,
but I did not like the way that WooCommerce's shopping cart was set up. So I found a plugin or software. I don't know what the right thing to call it is, but it's a plugin on the website that overrides the default WooCommerce checkout page and lets you customize it more. And then it also gives you like the order bump, and then you can also do upsells. So like after they purchase, you can sell them a product there.
Yes.
And that's called Woo Funnels.
Ooh, okay.
Is the brand or company.
And you like them.
And yeah, I've really liked it. Like everything has its drawbacks. There are things that I'd probably change or could be better, but it has really simplified the whole checkout process for us. And especially where we don't have like an e-commerce storefront, it's not like we have all of these products. Basically, if people are buying a product from us, they're clicking to buy it, they're buying that one thing, and that's all. Or the order bump, obviously, but we're sending people directly from a sales page to checkout. There's not like an add to cart and then
keep browsing. Right.
Yeah. So and I think the shopping cart plugin is actually called Arrow Checkout, and then Order Bumps is that plugin. So they have a couple different plugins that do different things, all under Woo Funnels.
I wanted to take a quick break to talk about how, as bloggers and online entrepreneurs, the landscape is always changing. What you want to do today is really direct your visitors and your customers to where you want them to go. I'm excited that we launched as part of Milo Tree. So not only can you grow your social media followers on Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest and YouTube and get people to subscribe to your list from your pop-up, but we have another pop-up that we just launched, and it's a custom link pop-up. What that means is if you want people to see a certain piece of content on your site, you can link your pop-up to that piece of content, put an image in the pop-up so that when someone comes to your site, they'll be directed to go see that. Now, let's say it's a piece of a sponsored post and you want to get eyeballs on it. That's a great use case for the pop-up. Let's say you're selling a product and you have a landing page or a sales page. You can link this pop-up to that. Let's say you're really psyched about your TikTok account. Go link the pop-up to your TikTok account. Wherever you want it to go, you can. And therefore, you start to gain control of your audience's path. Head to milotree.com, get your first 30 days free. You'll see the custom link pop-up. Also, you have access to all the other ones. But I think this is a game changer because I think we are going to see over the next 6 to 12 months a real shift in how people make money online. If you have any questions, reach out to me at Jillian@milotree.com. And now back to the show. So now, if you would share, like, how much do you make from your eBooks and bumps and all of that?
Yeah. So I would say about 40% of our income is sales of our own products. And roughly half of that would be the digital downloads, so eBooks or the ID cards. And then the other half is our course sales.
Okay, so talk to me about courses. When did you start making them? How many do you offer? How do you sell them?
Yeah, we have 2 courses that we offer right now. The first one, I want to say we started it in 2016. So it's been just over 3 years that we've had it. And we've done a variety of different things to promote it. Initially, we had it so that the only way that you could buy it was through an email sequence. So you could, you'd opt in for that free cheat sheet, you'd get a series of helpful emails, and then you would get a sales sequence. And then we tried having the course just available always. And that's what we've had for most of the time that we've had the course. And then the email funnel would give people a discount on the course for a limited time. And we're actually migrating back to only having the course available through the email funnel and then doing like a promotion for it 2 or 3 times a year.
And have you started that?
We're actually so we actually just kind of closed the course to the public. There's some loose ends we're still tying up, but we just closed that. So in February, and then we'll do a big promotion for it, most likely in May.
Now, when you say we, who is we?
That's a good question. So in my head, my husband and I run the business together. He's awesome moral support, like bouncing ideas off of him. He has a lot of great insight and feedback, and he'll do whatever random or odd jobs I need him to do. And then I also have a full-time assistant. And so she and I are the ones that are like really running the business. In reality, it's probably her running the business day to day. So actually you and I, before we were able to schedule this call, I had been sick, like in bed, not able to do anything for almost 2 weeks. And Chantel just keeps the show rolling. She's answering emails, doing any social media, and just all the kind of day-to-day tasks. And then I'm focused more on like planning and big ideas. I do most of the like email marketing side of things. So coming up with what we're going to do for different funnels and kind of, I guess, higher level stuff like that. But it's it's been awesome to have her, just because I don't have to be the one doing every single thing. And then we do have a couple contractors that we hire for different things. Like someone manages our Pinterest for us. We have a VA in the Philippines that does a lot of our like Facebook. We have a big Facebook group, and so she manages a lot of that. We also have moderators in there. So we do have a lot of people helping out in various ways, but primarily it's myself and then my assistant. And then my husband builds a bunch of like he built an awesome wall that I record in front of for YouTube, and he's building like a planter, and so and tech support sometimes, just a variety of things.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I love how it has grown organically. I work with my husband too. He's my partner, and same thing. We have assistants I have a full-time assistant, some assistants, contractors from the Philippines, and other people to help. But it's like, oh, wait, I need this. And then I go find that person. So I don't start off thinking, well, what do I need to build my team? It just organically starts growing.
Yeah. And it's interesting because over the last probably 2 or 3 years, really so I've had Chantel's been on our team since April of 2017 or August of 2017. And really since then, I've learned a lot about what I do and don't like about working with other people. She and I work together extremely well. Like we've both said, like the only way this will end is when like the business just dies, or if her side projects take off and different things. Like we work really well together. But just as we've worked with other people, I have realized that I do not enjoy, and I'm not very good at managing people. I'm just not consistent enough in that way. And she is good at that, but we've just been figuring out, this dynamic of what's the best way for us to have other people help get projects done. And for the most part, that's not been having like another full-time or even part-time assistant. Like most of the people that we have working for us maybe do like 5 or 10 hours a week.
Yep.
And it's a one very, very specific thing that they do.
Yep.
Instead of having kind of like a jack of all trades person.
Same thing.
Same
thing. I have different people doing very specific tasks over and over again so that the work is consistent and I don't have to check up on them. And I find that to be same thing in terms of just my own mental load. If it, relates to this specific thing, this person does it and I have to set them up, like let's say train them once, and then boom, I can let that run.
Yep.
And I don't have to find projects for people, and I'm so with you.
Yeah, and it's been nice to have people who are just really good at what they do. And so then we're not like worried about like, oh, could we utilize them better doing this thing or this thing? Like we hired them for that purpose. And that's what they're doing, and they're awesome at it.
Absolutely. Let's talk. Okay, so you've made 2 courses, and how do you feel about courses? So I know you're now going to go back to your strategy of an email sequence where you sell the course. Do you feel like in your business, when you think about the products that you've made, where do you feel the opportunities are going forward?
The courses are definitely a big part of it. I mean, if for no other reason, then it's a much bigger ticket item. And so being able to sell, twice as many courses makes a much bigger impact on our income versus selling twice as many eBooks.
And how much do you charge for your courses?
So our main course, Successfully Growing Succulents, is $127.
Okay.
And then we have a course that we launched last year, Successfully Propagating Succulents. So getting back to that propagation thing. And that one is $45.
Okay,
so it's a smaller course.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about this thing that we were talking about before we pressed record. If you listen to my podcast, you know that I talk a lot about finding a niche, and that because the internet is so big, your niche can be relatively small and you can build a very successful business in that niche. So will you talk to me about how you think about the fact that you are a niche blogger and what the pros and cons of that are?
So I have realized over the years that succulents are not even as niche as most people think they are. Like we had talked about how when I go to blogging conferences, a lot of people are like, well, I do like lifestyle, I do food and fashion and different things all in one blog. And then when they find out I just do succulents, they're like, really? Like only succulents? And how do you have enough ideas for that? And part of it is that I think because I'm in this space, I'm realizing that succulents is a lot bigger than most people think. But it's so helpful because I know exactly why people are coming to my site. I know exactly what they want to do. Even if they're at various stages of owning succulents, they still want to know how to take care of them. Maybe it's really basic, like let's just talk about watering, but then you'll have people who also want to know about like growing from seeds, or they want more rare plants and how do you find rare plants and how do you keep them alive versus some of the more common varieties. But the thing that's nice is I've come to realize that by being so niche, I don't have to try and like satisfy a bunch of different needs that someone has. And I think there's absolutely a place for lifestyle blogging, and there's so many good things about it. So I don't want to make it seem like, if you're not niche, that's a problem. But I absolutely think that starting small and serving your audience really well in that really small thing, it creates super fans, right? Like it creates people who love you and they feel like you have transformed this particular thing for them. Like when I started, I was really focused just on propagating succulents from leaves. That was the thing that I was getting traffic from. And so I really focused in on that, and then started branching out into more like, okay, well, here's like basic care for succulents. And the thing that I've actually been finding over the last 2 or 3 years, especially, is I have people all over the world in all kinds of climates who are coming to my website to learn how to grow succulents. And growing succulents in the dry heat here in Phoenix is so different than growing succulents in Florida if you're growing them outside.
Right.
Now, indoor growing for the most part is fairly similar, but even then there's some nuances just like with humidity. So I have actually struggled just in the last 2 or 3 years feeling like I'm not niche enough because I'm not, I can't, there's not like this, I'm teaching techniques that work for people around the world. And that's the way we've started framing it, is like, look, I'm not going to give you the exact watering schedule for your succulent, but I'm going to tell you how succulents like to be watered. I'm going to tell you the signs that it's getting too much or too little, so that you are then informed and can create your own watering schedule based on your climate.
I love that.
So that's the niche or direction I've kind of gone into, which may or may not seem niche to people, but we'd also looked at like, well, let's only focus on indoor succulent growers. And that is primarily where we focus. But it wasn't like I went with just succulents that survive in like a humid climate, or just succulents that survive in a 4-season climate. So there are different ways that you can niche down in various topics, but by serving a small audience and doing it really well, you get people who keep coming back over and over. And I feel like you're seen as a lot more of an expert.
Absolutely. And one thing that I would add, as a blogger, as an expert, your job is to solve people's problems. And because you're in this niche, you know that one big problem that you've been talking about is how much to water your succulents. And you can answer that from a place of authority. And immediately you create trust and people will look to you. Whereas, again, if you're a lifestyle blogger, it's harder to figure out what are the exact problems you can solve for somebody. Because maybe somebody's coming to you for food, or maybe somebody's coming to you for travel or fashion. And I always say lifestyle is not a niche. And if you are a lifestyle blogger and you're not having success, or you're struggling a little bit, to think about where are people responding to you? What kinds of content are people responding to you the most about, and going that way. Like if you are a kind of celebrity and people just want to like you're Jessica Alba and people want to like learn about your life, they want to hear about your travels and they want to hear about your fashion. But if you're starting out today, my recommendation is really figure out, like test a bunch of stuff and see what hits, because then you can answer, like you want to be answering the question in your niche of how much to water your succulents, like the equivalent of that question.
Yeah. And the thing I think that people get really afraid of when they're just starting is like, well, what if it's too small? Then you can branch out, right? Like worst case scenario is you pick something so hyper niche and focused that you're only finding like 10 people, but they probably have other, like you're saying, they probably have other problems that you could solve that are a little bit broader. But if you start small, it's so much easier to then branch out. Whereas like we kind of had to do this like shift and we took all of this big broad stuff and we really had to kind of focus it in and figure out how to make it specific to people. And that is much harder because then you're tied to all these other things and you're like, oh, but this person wants me to do this. This person wants me to do this, or just internally, but I really like doing this. I really like doing this one. I don't want to only focus on one thing. Whereas if you start with just one thing, it's easy to add. You can always add things, but it's harder to take away.
Absolutely. And I think it's just what you were saying in terms of, well, I like doing food and I like doing travel. And I would say the mindset shift needs to be, I want to help people. I want to build relationships. So it becomes, I want to help that one person. How can I do that? So if you're a lifestyle blogger and you're like, well, I love travel, like where are people coming to you as an expert, and really digging in on that, like thinking of your business more as in terms of relationships rather than content.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I actually had the opportunity to meet Seth Godin at a conference that I spoke at.
Love him.
Yes, and I didn't want to like overwhelm, like everyone was talking to him, but I did want to say hi. And we chatted for just a minute. And the one thing that he said to me was, he said, you need to find a community of people that like, you know, want to be together and that you can serve. And just that concept of community has, I think we were focused on it a little bit in the beginning, but I have really, really leaned into that because all of the great ideas that we have all come from feedback that we've gotten from our audience. And they may not be saying it directly, but there are things that I recognize as like, oh, everyone keeps saying this thing over and over. This keeps popping up. What can we do to help with that? Or like, what's missing? Why is this an issue? And being able to have that audience that's responsive, that talks to you, or that you can sit back and just kind of watch, you know, maybe you're not like actually engaging all the time, but you can see what people are talking about. That is invaluable.
Absolutely.
We have a large Facebook community.
How big is your Facebook? Is it a Facebook group?
Yeah, we have a Facebook group. I want to say we're at about 55,000 members.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have been on a roller coaster of emotions with it. But initially I was like, oh, we're going to make so much money from this Facebook group. And I realized like, that's not the point of the Facebook group. The Facebook group for us currently kind of provides two things. It gives us a place to send people, because I can't directly answer every person's question. I can send them to blog posts, but if they want like more personalized help, they can buy our course, join the membership, or we can send them to this Facebook community, which is so great. Like we have a super engaged group there. So that's nice. But then also it's like instant feedback. If I have a question and I want to get some insight from people in our audience, I just post in our Facebook group. And, you know, within like 20, 30 minutes, I usually have 10 or 15 comments, depending on the question. Some obviously strike more engagement than others, but it's so awesome to just see what people are saying. I mean, I sometimes will just like scroll the feed and see, okay, what's popping up? What are the most common problems that people are having this week? What are people most excited about this week? And so if you start small and you have a good connection with your audience and you can get feedback from them, that just enables you to do so much more and be more genuine in helping people. And then in turn, they are way more likely to purchase from you and stick around because they can see how you're directly solving their problem and making their life better.
Absolutely. I'm really invested in my Facebook group called the Milo Tree Mastermind Group. And same thing. I feel like I know these people. I feel like they know me. I show up and they show up. And you're right about, it's not about directly selling to them, but it is about, like, I will show them, let's say, a sales page that I've created and say, give me your feedback on this, not go buy my product. And it's almost like they're on the inside and I'm on the inside. And there's something very intimate about that. And back to the point of being, say, a lifestyle blogger, and I don't mean to I don't know, criticize lifestyle bloggers. But if you think of if you're seeing your blog, I guess the way that I think about it is, the magazine business right now is really struggling. The magazines that you see, say, at the airport or at the grocery store, notice they've gotten much smaller and it's not really a great business to be in. And if your blog is like a magazine, I would argue that's not a great business to be in. I believe the business of solving problems and connecting to people is a really good business to be in.
Yes, definitely. And it's awesome because then you see results, right? And when people get results, then they want to share with everyone. Like, so we have this happen all the time with our readers, with our customers, where it's like they buy a succulent and maybe they've had one or two before and they've died, but this time they're going to keep it alive. They're determined, and they come to the website, they, read some blog posts, maybe they join the course, and suddenly they understand what was wrong and why it didn't work before. And now they know what to do and it's working. And then they in turn start buying more succulents, sometimes through us, and then they share it with their friends. And they're like, oh, by the way, like, you should check out Succulents and Sunshine because this is where I learned everything, or they're teaching people. But it spreads when people are changing something and making something happen. That's what gets them excited, and that's what they want to share.
Yeah, there's nothing better than success and happiness.
Yes.
And sunshine. you know? It's all about the good feelings.
Totally.
Okay, couple more questions. One is, you have a membership. Oh, well, no, let's go back. So are you actively blogging? And if so, how often?
I have a hard time answering that question. In my head, no. I would not say that I actually kind of don't consider myself a blogger so much anymore. But I think it's just my perception of the word. So we have, currently we have one new article coming out each week, generally one a week. And it's focused on a particular succulent species. So like a zebra plant, we'll have this article that's really in depth about the specific needs of this species of succulent. And my assistant is actually doing most of the work on those. It's very research based. It's like trying to find all of the information about this plant and combine it all into one and trying to be like as comprehensive as possible. So we are doing one of those every week, but in terms of writing like a blog post or like a how-to article, something along that line, I can't remember the last time I published one. I mean, it's probably been a year. So we've hit this point where we have the basics covered. There are actually some other blog post topics that are on my to-do list that just haven't become a priority. But we have the basics of care really fleshed out on the website. And so we've put a lot more time and energy into marketing our products better.
Got it.
And then also, like you'd mentioned, the membership, that's where a lot of our new content is going, is we're focusing more on video and classes. So each month in our membership, we do a new class. And some of it's things that I have already talked about on the blog or I've already talked about in a course, but it's a fresh approach. It's a new video. We have different people in the membership than we do anywhere else. So I really am not publishing a lot of new content. And even these, we call them types of succulents pages, we will be doing one a week for the rest of the year. And that's the end so far as we can tell. We will probably add some here and there just based on requests. But that will probably be the last of like brand new content on Succulents and Sunshine. And we'll update and revise old content, and try and make things better. And it's not that we don't have more content that we could share. It's just that we have what we need. And right now traffic is not our issue. And so if these other topics are things that we can easily put behind a paywall now, where it's like, join the membership and get access to these different things. And we still have so much great free content out there that is serving and helping people. And then we have other stuff that is, that's paid.
I think that is great. Okay. And how much is your membership site?
It is $25 a month.
And how is that going?
Good. It's been an adventure. I will say that.
Okay.
It's, so I was at a conference in July last year and talked to, Shane Sams of Flip Your Life. I'm trying to remember what their podcast is called. Anyway, and I knew he was going to tell me I should start a membership site. And I've been so resistant to it for a very long time. But having a conversation with him was really interesting. He just helped me realize that I can do a membership site however I want to do it. I don't have to follow this mold. Like the example I gave him, and it seems so dumb now, is I'm like, well, I don't want to show up on the first Thursday of every month at 1:00. Like, what if I want to do it on a different day? And he's like, well, why do you have to always do it on the first Thursday? Just, it was such a little shift. But I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like I can just look at my schedule for the month and say, hey, this day works. Let's do it this day, for like a live Q&A or something. So we ended up starting it in September. And it's evolved a little bit since then. I'm sure it will continue to evolve a little bit, but we're really excited with the direction it's going. And the people who are in it are so happy to be there. And that's been really, really nice.
Oh, that is so, yes, I get it. I love the way your business just keeps evolving. But the one constant is the connection to your audience and that you are solving problems for them. And they are willing to take out their credit card. To learn because they trust you.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because when I came up with the concept for the membership site, I posted in our free community group about it. And I'm like, what do you guys think? And 90%, maybe 95% of people said they wouldn't buy it. And the price point was actually lower at that point in time. And everyone's like, no, why would I pay for that? Like there's so much free content. But we had 2 people on there who commented, they're like, this is so nice. Like, that's what I need is like the one-on-one help, like the smaller, more personal access, and that's the thing that I've loved is, we don't have like this massive membership, but we have people who are going to be with us. Like most of the people in our membership have probably been there since we started in September. So they're like going on 6 months, and we've had people come and join and leave too. But a lot of people have been there for a good amount of time already. And that's the thing that's nice is like they feel like they're getting so much of what they need. And it's okay that other people don't want what I have, that they think it's too expensive or they think it's ridiculous. Right. That's fine. It's not for them.
Not for them. Oh, Cassidy. Yeah. Okay. I feel like you need to come back for a part 2. Would you do that?
We can do it.
Okay. So wait. So
yes.
Last question, which is, what is the one piece of advice that you would give my audience that you wish you had gotten at the beginning as you were building your business?
So usually the advice I give people is just keep trying things. And I feel like that's kind of been the constant for me, is like not getting discouraged. I will be the first person to tell you that blogging or online business is a boatload of work. Like, it's so much work. And there are so many ups and downs, sometimes daily. And I can't tell you how many times I have thought about just being done. And I'm like, nope, I'm not touching another second again. We are moving on. Let's go get a regular job. But just keep trying things and don't be afraid to start and don't be afraid to shift. I think people are just afraid of taking action and making something happen because they don't know what's going to come, and because bad things could happen, but good things can also happen too. So just don't be afraid to try something new.
And just to add to that would be what you had said previously. Don't believe that just because not everybody, but that's like the thinking. Everybody does a membership site this way. You have to do it that way too.
Yes. And that's something that I don't know if it's my niche or my audience or what it is, but I have actually found like a lot of general best online business practices work really well for us. But there's a lot that we've been totally backwards on, just that like people are like, oh, you absolutely should not do this. It's like the first thing that comes to mind is people are like, only have one thing for people to click on in your weekly emails. Like you only want to give them one action item.
Right.
But we have 7 because our members wanted it. They're like, well, I'm not going to open your email if it's not something that interests me. But if we have 7 different things in our weekly email, we found that our open rate went up because people are curious, like, what could I possibly learn about this week? So yeah, be willing to like definitely listen to all the advice out there and do your research and see what's working for people, and then try some different things too.
I love that. Okay.
I wouldn't say going against the grain is like the norm. I wouldn't go against the grain most of the time, but don't be afraid to try something different.
I love that. Okay, Cassidy, people want to reach out to you, find more about you. How can they?
The best place is probably succulentsandsunshine.com. You can also go to CassidyTuttle.com. Depending on when you're listening to this, there may or may not be very much up there. But Succulents and Sunshine is where all the awesome stuff is really happening right now.
And is there like a contact page if people want to email you?
Yes, there is an about form on there, or about page.
Oh, I think that's how I reached out to you.
Yes, I think so.
Will you come back for a part 2? I feel like there's so much more to talk about.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to come back.
Awesome. Well, Cassidy, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely my biggest takeaway from this episode with Cassidy is that people are building very unique businesses on the internet. It used to be if you were a blogger, your blog was like a magazine and you were trying to get the broadest audience that you could find. Today, blogging is all about serving a very specific audience that you've cultivated, figuring out what they are interested in and serving up solutions. And what's so interesting about that is those solutions can look very different depending on what your niche is. If you are liking the podcast and you want to continue the conversation, please join my Facebook group. It's called the Milo Tree Mastermind Group. I love it. I'm in there all the time. It is an awesome community of entrepreneurs. I love talking to everybody. I go in live a lot. I talk about the episodes. I talk about what's on my mind. I talk about building businesses. So please head to Facebook, join the Milo Tree Mastermind Group, and I will see you here again next week.